Werewolves? Who let the dogs out? Welcome back to another Howl-O-Ween video. I am Barkey J. Dog, your host. The werewolf. One of the scariest creatures you could face in olden times in Europe. It was a curse visited upon someone who transformed from a human into a fearsome wolf-like beast, and then went around killing people. And there wasn't much anybody could do about it, since the werewolf was very hard to kill. Sure, silver kills werewolves, we all know that, but most people at the time didn't have silver on hand, let alone bullets. And if they did have any silver, it was probably a cheap alloy rather than pure silver. Or maybe they only had something small, like a teaspoon. Can you imagine taking on this guy with a teaspoon? So werewolves were scary. Now, these guys come in two basic forms. First, you have your Hollywood werewolf, best represented by Lon Chaney Jr. as the Wolfman. He walks upright and is basically humanoid. Then there's the old school European type, which is where a person literally transforms into a wolf. A big scary wolf, but basically a wolf. An American Werewolf in London type. Technically, there's a third, but we won't talk about them. Let's take a look at some werewolfery in the movies. I found some good stuff this year to share with you. First up is a pair of TV movies starring some familiar faces. Let's begin with Moon of the Wolf from 1972. The action takes place in a small southern town in the bayou. Here, a young girl is murdered, and the local sheriff investigates. It looks like an animal did the killing, but it could have been just plain old murder, and the sheriff has to sort out the suspects. The killer turns out to be a loup de loup, a French term for, you guessed it, a werewolf. But who is the werewolf, and is it actually real? This is quite a good mystery set in a suitably southern-looking town near the swamps. And there's a good cast here. David Jansen stars as the sheriff, and he was always good in any role. Not gonna lie, I really miss David Jansen and that kind of quality actor. We also have Jeffrey Lewis as the dead girl's hot-headed brother. Character actor Royal Dano appears as a hillbilly-type guy. Barbara Rush from When Worlds Collide, among many other things. She plays a Southern belle. Her brother is played by Bradford Dillman, and the town doctor was a familiar face on television, John Berardino. Quite a good picture for a TV movie. More mystery than outright horror, but it's pretty good. Next is Scream of the Wolf from 1974. This was produced by Dan Curtis, the guy who brought us the spooky soap opera Dark Shadows. And let me just say, this one comes with major turtleneck action, as well as the most over-the-top action music television soundtrack ever. It's great! In this one, set in California, people start getting killed by some mysterious creature. The law calls in an expert hunter to try and identify the beast, but it defies analysis. He has a former friend, another big game hunter that he consults, but this guy refuses to help out because he has a weird philosophy that people are most alive when they're scared. And rumors start circulating that what the city is really dealing with is a werewolf. As more people start dying and panic sets in, our hero becomes more determined than ever to solve the mystery and kill the beast. Another good TV movie with a good cast. This one has Peter Graves as the good guy hunter, Clint Walker as the weird big game hunter, Philip Carey, a stalwart on television over the years, is the sheriff, and Joanne Flug, another familiar face on TV back in the day. She plays the good guy hunter's girlfriend. I really liked this one, and it has a twist ending that you won't see coming. This is really a fun little TV movie that brings the spookiness. And then there's Pounce from 2015, also called Silverhide. Not gonna lie, this one was kind of a chore to get through. It's a slog. Here, some conspiracy theorists are spying on a mysterious military installation, kind of like Area 51. One night, they sneak inside the perimeter and hang out in an old bunker they think is part of a test range abandoned in the 1980s. Turns out the government is not hiding UFOs, but they created this werewolf that's semi-invisible for military purposes. But this thing can't be controlled, gets loose, and chomps on some of the cast. This is a low-budget British production, kind of a direct-to-Amazon affair, where they skipped both the direct-to-DVD and the direct-to-VHS bins at the dollar store. Ugh. We talked about these kind of things with the Scarecrow movies. The bar to entry is set so low these days, anyone can make a movie with a handy cam and a desktop computer. They have an interesting idea, but due to the lack of experience and budget, they have a lot of exposition and blah blah blah. Most of the actors, though, are not properly trained in their craft or are not actors at all. And they have a production crew of the same caliber as the cast. There's dodgy effects work, goofy acting, editing, you name it. The result of all this is something like Pounce. Cheap-looking effects, minimal sets, shots that are way too long, wonky line delivery, you name it. And pointless characters. These people only exist to awkwardly dump exposition and then become werewolf chow. And what's with all the intercom chatter? Like, it's just a constant thing in this movie. Voices chattering over the radio. Gets pretty annoying, I gotta say. Still, they're doing more than I ever have, so good for them, I guess. This comes in two versions, one in full color and the other in a black and silver edition. That's the one I watched. Like Mad Max Fury Road, they made the footage monochrome and then added some film grain, and it looks pretty interesting. However, it also shows up some of the dodgy effects work, like the cheap green screen the actors are standing in front of, or this badly matted tunnel here. The monster is okay. I appreciate what they were trying to do, and the black and silver version has a nice look. But again, this one was a bit of a chore to sit through, so I don't recommend it. And finally, we have Wolfen from 1988. Now, this is a proper film here. Here, a super rich guy and his hot wife are murdered by a mysterious creature. Albert Finney stars as a burnt-out police detective brought in on the case. He's great. He's like totally nonplussed at everything until the last act or so. Turns out, the rich guy was being monitored by this security firm, since the rich guy was ultra-rich. Didn't do him much good in the end, though, did it? As he investigates, he meets a cute chick who works for this security firm, and together they try to figure out what happened and why. And of course, more people start getting killed off. Diane Verona plays the security chick. She was also in FX, The Cotton Club, and Chicago Hope, among many other things. This is one of her earliest film roles. She's quite good. We also have Gregory Hines as a pathologist. Really liked him here, and he and Finney have great chemistry on screen. Edward James Olmos is a Native American who works on bridges and high steel. He and his friends are suspects. And check this out! These guys are actually up there on top of this bridge. That's not CGI or special effects. The actors are up there, acting. And they don't have safety lines on in some scenes, and that's just how they did things back in the day to get the shots they needed. Anyway, the city in this looks fantastic. They shot this in and around a burned out, bombed out, abandoned part of the Bronx. Again, this isn't a set or a miniature or something. This is what that part of the Bronx looked like back in the day. The only odd thing is this security firm. They spend a lot of time there, and most of those scenes seem way too long or kind of pointless. They also do this wolf's eye view thing that goes on way too long each time where they use it. But those are minor quibbles, really. Wolfen is just excellent. It's a werewolf movie that isn't overly gory. It does bring the spooky uneasiness, though, and the climax is pretty cool and a little surreal. The movie is a little slow, maybe, but I like that. It worked in this case. I highly recommend Wolfen if you're looking for a really good film with an unusual take on werewolves. You can watch more werewolf action here. And down there you can see other Howl-O-Ween offerings. Join me next time as Howl-O-Ween continues.